Hari Om. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Welcome back again today to spend time in Pujya Gurudev's memory. As on date, 90 hours have been spent in a worthwhile fashion with 23 groups doing unto him workshops. With an average of about 20 to 25 members in each group, we would have probably met more than 500 members over the last 3 months. Each group has contributed around rupees 28,000 very lovingly, with some of them overshooting this figure by huge margins. We thank members of each group and their coordinators for this offering to Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapeeth. Okay, so now I'm going ahead. Somebody, Tejaswini or Shobha, Swamiji is there. Swamiji is come. Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om Swamiji. So nice to see you.
Swamiji is on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Swamiji, we were just about to start. And since I had not seen you, I was going ahead. Then I'm coming back to you now. We had placed a request to our Mukhya Swami, Swami Swaroopanandaji, to attend today's session and give his benediction. He has kindly consented to be present, even though he must have been inundated by such requests from various sources. I don't consider it appropriate to introduce Swamiji to the group, except for the fact that he is the current global head of the Chinmaya Mission. Thanks to Swamiji for being present with us today. We request Swamiji to bless the gathering and also speak about CVV in a little bit. Thank you, Swamiji. Over to you.
Hari Om, and very, very happy to see all of you. Yes,
Speaker
no
view,
doubt
please.
today. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just saying speaker view so that only you are seen right now.
Okay.
Yes, Swamiji.
Hari Om to everybody, and I'm very happy all of you are meeting in such good numbers to revel in the glory of our great master. No doubt today, tomorrow is going to be a very, very, very busy day. It has been also, but even I cannot miss this opportunity to be with all of you. And as Pramodini said, in very few minutes, if I can share with you some beautiful memories of Gurudev. Of course, there's a lot to say, and yet there are times we become speechless because there is nothing to say. Because what words can describe, a master of such magnitude? So just many experiences I keep sharing, of course, but as Gurudev once told me, that the truth cannot be described. When he used to speak about Shri Taponji Maharaj, and we used to insist that speak on Taponji Maharaj, he used to say, Taponji Maharaj is Brahman, and Brahman cannot be described in words. And I used to say that if I don't get to know Shri Taponji Maharaj through Gurudev's words, who else is going to tell us who, what, how he was? A picture doesn't speak that much. Gurudev was such an eloquent master, would become silent. And that time I used to foolishly sit and think that I'm going to think of every moment spent with Gurudev, his mannerism, his words, that incident. And that also one day he blew up. When I was asking him, I said, I knew he would never be able to speak about Taponji Maharaj. So I said, can you tell some incident? And even there he laughed and told me, incident? In the infinite, there can be no incident. Because there is no duality there. So that's how he would, but then, of course, finally, one day in meditation, when he led our mind to silence, we could understand why he cannot describe Taponji Maharaj, because he could be only discovered in silence. That was Gurudev's bhakti towards his guru. Tomorrow is Gurudev's Mahasamadhi day. If I have to say something, that even with the thought of Gurudev not being there physically with us was unimaginable at that time, because once we met Gurudev, our life just revolved around him. Nothing and nobody else mattered at all. It was just Gurudev. And we could not imagine our life without Gurudev. And sometimes, and I was a youngster at that time. And there used to be sometimes these elderly people, today we all are that, who used to sit and ask Gurudev, what will happen to the mission after you? Or they would say, what have you planned for the mission after you? And I used to get so upset that why do you even have to talk about it? But Gurudev always prepared us that the Guru is not the physical body. One day the physical body has to leave. But that Guru Tattva that he is, and how he linked us with that Tattva, that Gurudev's Mahasamadhi day, and when his body came to Delhi, it's as though our life had gone away. There's nothing left in life. What was the purpose of life? But the moment we saw him sitting in that Samadhi pose, everyone who went in with tears came back smiling. And even the newspapers reported that here was a personality whom everybody thought was their life. And yet there was no wailing, no crying, no. People, in fact, were laughing, smiling, and remembering those wonderful moments with Gurudev. And anyone, and I'm sure many of you are going to be speaking also, everybody felt, and only Krishna made everyone feel like this, that every gopi, every gopa felt that I am the most special or important in Krishna's life. And that quality, after Krishna, if anybody had, was Balakrishna. That was Gurudev only. That everybody felt that he was or she was the most important person in his life. So there's so many things to say, but very interesting was, I remember the very third camp I was attending in Siddhabadi, and I reached Delhi. Gurudev was there, and we had come there prepared. It was kind of those months where it was not very cold, but suddenly a letter was sent out, and there were no emails or phone calls or WhatsApp messages. So the letter must have gone to Hong Kong, and I landed up in Delhi, and Gurudev was laughing away, and he said, having left your comfortable place, you're going to come to this freezing cold Siddhabadi. He was saying that. And are you sure you want to come there? I said, Gurudev, cold or hot, being with you. But then he said, I know you all will be coming there, but I'll send a telegram to him. And we knew that he had a direct connection. I'll send a telegram to him. And there was this telegrams, no fax machines also. So I'll send a telegram to him. And so that my children are coming here, the weather should be good. And truly, we landed up in Siddhabadi. It was raining, it was cold, it was dark. The weather was really bad. But after our coming, it did improve. But I was standing with Gurudev the next day in front of the Himalayas, and he had told me this in Delhi. And he says, these telegrams these days, they don't reach on time. I have to send him a lightning telegram. And next day onwards, the best weather you could have in the month of November, that time global warming had not taken place. The best weather that you could have, that whole camp, and especially in that cold season when it is sunny, it was the most wonderful weather you could have. And early morning, 5 o'clock, Gurudev departed from Siddhabadi after the camp. And of course, late night there, and then early morning to see Gurudev off at 4 o'clock. I went to my room and slept, and I thought I got up at night. The weather had changed, and 4 days continuously it was dark and it was raining. And we could see that the whole of nature, the whole of Prakriti would be, you know, just for Gurudev, the way he wanted it to be. And this we had seen many times. Those who were there for the Vishnu Sahasranam Archana, those who were there for the 9th chapter of the Gita. I know some of you have been there. I can see those faces, right? How the rain would stop by his mere look, and how rain would come. How, a bus was supposed would have got stuck in the storm in the Kangra Valley, and how it stopped. And the moment they landed, it poured and poured for hours and hours. So we just saw that whole of nature was, in a way, dancing for him, And the same thing happened on his Mahasamadhi, when we were taking his Pratima to Siddhbadi. It was a long drive from Delhi. It was in the car. Whole night we had driven, whole day before nobody had slept, or night before nobody had slept. And the moment we reached the Kangra Valley, it's like the skies burst open, and as the people from the Kangra Valley, it was like a miles long people from the moment you entered the Kangra Valley to our ashram in Siddhbadi, how people were running after the car, the villagers whose life he had touched. And it's like their tears were pouring from the heavens. It was raining so heavily, and we could not take his casket out also. No? And so all arrangements were made. The Swami there was waiting to take his casket into the kutia, but how will such a big casket go into the kutia? If you open it, you get wet. All these things were going on. And Gurudev, when he came to Siddhbadi, he never walked into like a royal person and walked into his room without meeting. He would stand in front of his kutia near Hanumanji, and everybody who had come there would get an opportunity to have his darshan, bow down to him, and that 1 second he would make it so special for that person, and then went to his kutia, however tiring that journey was. It was pouring, and when the car came there, it stopped raining. Meanwhile, they were deciding where to put the, take the casket. Where do we put it? Everybody could have that darshan in front of the car. And when they were about to kind of move him, and yet people had not, it started raining. And just when we moved, it stopped raining. And somehow the other, he just refused to go into his kutia, because there people would not have to be with him. And he was always there for the people. So we had to place him in Kamla Hall. And whole night we were there doing japa. Morning again, it was pouring. How would we carry, his pratima and take it to the samadhi? But we had to do it. So rain or shine, whatever it is, the moment we walk out of the Kamla Hall, the rain stops. We go there. The Bhu Samadhi takes place. It is early morning, and just as Gurudev's body is placed into the Samadhi, from the east, the sun rays come and go straight into the Samadhi, like you see in the old architectural temples. And there was a beautiful, I've never in my life till today seen such a big, and literally like these two arms together, green moth sitting right in that sunlight looking towards Gurudev, like the tortoise in the temple. And the whole, at that time, of course, the edifice had not come in, the temple had not come in. It was just Shamiana. And all of us, 100 of us, were standing there, no rain. And just as all the function was over, it poured that whole afternoon and evening. just to say that what we saw while he was physically present, that he is ever present. And till today, whenever I take anybody to a camp in Siddhabadi, I tell them this story. And even in the middle of summer, I guarantee them that for Gurudev, the snow will come. Yeah? And it does come. Yeah? So we just have to know that Mahasamadhi of a Mahatma means that he is eternally with us. So on this auspicious day, we remind ourselves of that and feel his presence every moment in our life. So I'll conclude what I have to say now. Otherwise, I can go also endlessly, but I know many of you have got wonderful to share, and everybody is waiting to hear your experiences also. So please continue. Hari Om.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the Ashirvachan and the benediction, Swamiji. We got to see a little glimpse of a Yuga Purusha's life through just what Swamiji said now. Thank you again. Swamiji is already.
And just one thing which, of course, Pramodini had asked me to say, but again, talking about Gurudev, what was there to talk? But one of his great visionary programs that he had envisioned at that time, and many of us didn't even know. We know that he had started Chinmaya International Foundation, but he declared that one day we will have our university, a university like never before, just as he had planned CIRS, Chinmaya International Residential School, a school like never before, a university like never before, with Indian knowledge systems integrated with modern. That university has already started in 2 campuses, one in our Shankar Nilayam, that is at SIF, Chinmaya International Foundation, and the other at our Naada Bindu in Vibhuti. And we are now moving to our huge campus in Ernakulam itself. And and it's already started, it's doing so well, and especially the Naada Bindu also has done so well. The Naada Bindu campus has done so well that now we want to expand it, and we have to do that so that thousands can benefit from it. And we have to build that new campus on a 40 to 60 acres land, which has already started. And I will request all of you to be a part of this great endeavor by taking part in the crowdfunding, which Pramodini and Sundar will tell you. And it's going to, one is just getting over tomorrow, and the other is going to start on September 10th. But wherever you are, please give your name for that. It's a wonderful experience to bring our Chinmaya family together and be part of building such a great vision of our Gurudev. So I'll conclude with that, and Pramodini, please take over.
Thank you, Swamiji. We're very, very grateful for your presence in our midst. I knew how busy you were. In fact, Swamiji was a little confused about some message that I had asked for tomorrow. But I had to tell him, no, this is a live program. We'll need you live. So he came with all his greatness. Thank you, Swamiji, again. And Swamiji is free to leave whenever you want. If you feel like staying and listening to some others, you're most welcome to stay.
Yes, I'll just keep myself on mute, but y'all please continue the program.
Thank you, Swamiji. We now have Shri Suresh Nair from Bengaluru. Theirs is a brother-sister jodi, and the sister will speak a little while later. Sureshji was introduced to Chinmaya Mission through the Balvihar back in 1969 in Ranchi, Jharkhand, and met Gurudev in 1977. His father served as the Chinmaya Mission president of Ranchi for 2 years, and his mother would cook for Gurudev during his visits to Bihar in 1989-91. There Suresh Nairji has been pinned, so you can see him. He's actually traveling, but he still put on his video. Thanks so much. Most Chinmaya Mission members find Chinmaya Mission wherever they go, and Sureshji was no different. He was actively involved with the mission in Ranchi, Dhanbad, Jamshedpur, Mumbai, Kolkata, and now in Bangalore. He talks about how Gurudev knew of something that would happen in the future and had directed him accordingly. Listen to Suresh T narrating this incident. Video, please.
1 minute. ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I am Suresh Nair, staying in Bangalore. I was introduced to Chinmaya Mission in 1969 when I joined as a Balavihar student. I was lucky to meet Gurudev for the first time in a yajna in 1977 at Ranchi in Jharkhand. And it was a great experience to meet a Guru in your life. I was still a school student, and the next chance I got was in 1984 when I was in the final year of my engineering. It was in Dhanbad where I was studying in IIT ISM, and Gurudev happened to come to Dhanbad for a yajna. Since it was a place without a Chinmaya Mission Center, I got a good chance to not only work for the yajna, but also be very closely associated with Gurudev for the days he lived in the house of the host. Several experiences happened during this stay because this was the first time I was physically close to Gurudev from morning till evening. I will narrate an incident which happened on the last day. Gurudev was leaving back. We were not very happy. He got up and he was out of his room at 4:30 to leave for the railway station, and he was giving the final instructions to the people. All of a sudden he looked around at me, looking at me, and he asked, "What is your next plan?" And I said, "Gurudev, my semester exams are only 4 days away, and from next Monday it starts, and it will get over in 6 days' time. So I have to get back and focus on my studies." Gurudev knew the last 10 days I was virtually with him. And he said, "Once your exams are over, you go back." I did not understand what he meant by go back, nor did I have the courage to ask him for any clarification. And dropping that instruction, if I may say, he turned around talking to others. After Gurudev's departure, I got back to my studies, and I was lost in my studies. And the last day paper, it was over. It was customary for us to go on the last day out of the campus for a movie, have a dinner outside, and take a break from the stress of the exams. But strangely, that day, I told my friends that I'm not interested. I want to go back and take rest. And after the exams in the evening, I got to my hostel room after a very early dinner. And suddenly I remembered Gurudev's words, "After your exams, you must go back." I was thinking what to do. And then I thought that he must be telling me, "Go back home," because my parents lived in Ranchi and it was less than 200 kilometers. So I took the next bus at 5:30 in the morning and reached home only to see that the house was locked. And I was a little surprised because I didn't know where they were. And my neighbors immediately called me and they said, "You come here, your mother is fine." I said, "What happened to my mother?" They said that she has undergone an operation yesterday and she's doing fine. All are in the hospital. I immediately rushed to the hospital, and my father told me that just 3 days back, the doctor who had scheduled this operation almost 1.5 months later, informed that she would be traveling and she'll not be in station, so she wanted to see that Amma is operated and recovered before she leaves. The operation was fixed only 3 days back, and Gurudev told me to go back more than 10 days back. That is the vision of a guru. I realized that he knew my past, my present, and the future. How beautifully he guided me. He gave me the instructions in such a way that I was never disturbed during the exams. But immediately after the exams, he knew I needed a reminder. He reminded me, and I went. I could be with Amma. And he was all through with Amma during the operation. She came out of it beautifully, and she went on to serve Gurudev in 2 yajnas by cooking for Gurudev personally. This incident gave me the true knowledge of a guru, how he guides us, how he loves his children, and he looks after us at every step of our life. He is doing that to us even today. Hari Om.
He is doing that to us even today. Such a statement. Very strong statement. Another person who started early in Bal Vihar is Shri N.M. Sundar, the Executive Secretary to the Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth Trust. All his siblings were into Bal Vihar, Chik and study groups, and most of them are actively involved in one way or the other. Sundar, I call him Sundar without the G because I know him from our childhood. He worked in TCS and other companies, lived in the US and Singapore before settling down at Kochi in the current position at CVV. Let's listen to why Sundar thinks that Gurudev was a Yuga Purusha, Yukta Purusha. Over to Sundar.
ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
Hari Om all. It is my joy and pleasure to spend a few minutes talking about Gurudev, but Pramodini has been very unkind to me. She has given me the challenge of describing an ocean with only the number of words available to describe a small puddle. So I will do my best. As a 20-year-old, I was at the first National Sikh Conference in Mumbai. And at this conference, I happened to be sitting at the first talk, literally kind of a few feet away from the speaker's dais, right in the front. He walked in. He had been driven from his kutia to the Saraswati Nilayam. Normally he would have walked in, but because he was very ill with a heart trouble, he was driven there. As he walked in, he is breathing heavily, and it is clear that he is not a well person. He stands up and starts speaking, and within 30 seconds it is very clear to me that the person who walked in breathing heavily is not the person who is speaking. It is an entirely different person. I can't remember much of what he said. The key messages are clear. One is that when you think of people like Buddha, Krishna, etc., they taught and lived at a time when there was no TV, no media, nothing of the sort. And yet, thousands of years later, we are here studying their teaching. What is it that they had? And he just called it the X factor. And yes, that was the first time I heard the term X factor, right? That they were Yukta Purushas. That was the X factor that he referred to. Yukta Purushas, integrated body, mind, intellect. Their thought, word, and action was integrated. And he exhorted all of the Yuva Kendra people to develop that integrated personality, but with a very noble vision, the same noble vision that a Buddha or a Krishna had. Whatever happened that day, I didn't know what happened that day, but today I can say that day he got into my head and my heart. And if 40 years later I'm here serving the mission, the seeds were laid that day. What can you say about the work that he's done? It is absolutely incredible. To me as an individual, obviously the study groups and Balvihar was my first point of impact. Balvihar also later, when I started conducting Balvihars, I understood the impact more than when I attended the Balvihars. But as a study group attendee and later as a sevak, the impact that he had was tremendous because he challenged each of us to sit in the study group, read and understand the text and apply our understanding to it, compare it to the teaching as laid out by Pujya Gurudev in his books at that time, and also take the help of the moderator who would bring his or her greater experience and greater depth of knowledge to understanding the topic. Now, when you do this week after week after week, and your understanding is reinforced by your experience, at some point you are forced to change, and this impetus for change is reinforced by the Gita Jnana Yajnas, the 7-day, 10-day programs that he had in in hundreds of cities around the world. I think in each of this, the impetus was you change. If you change, the world changes. When the world changes, you if you become happy, the world becomes happy. If you're miserable, the world is miserable. Therefore, if you want to change the world, there is only one way there, and that is to change myself. That message coming crystal clear throughout his 35 years of teaching. If you look at what he said in the 1950s versus what he wrote in the later books in the 1980s and 90s, you will see that this is unchanged. And in some ways, to us, it reflects what Krishna did to Arjuna. Krishna did not change the situation of the battle or the power that the Pandavas and Kauravas had. He changed Arjuna's mindset. And this is the secret to Gurudev's message. He provided a lot of tender, loving care to everybody who interacted with him. To me, that came in the fact that he officiated at our wedding. He sat there at the wedding of Arundhati and I, and in fact, it may be, I don't know for a fact, it may be that mine was the last wedding that Pujya Gurudev blessed.
Sundar Hariom, we had to cut down a little bit. Sundar referred to a beautiful poem that Gurudev had written, and he said it was his favorite song of Gurudev. The song is There Is a Reason, and some of you may have heard it from me. I've sung it many times, and it's on YouTube if you wish to look at it. There is a reason for everything that happens in our life, okay? And he knows the reason, so just surrender. That's the crux of the poem. Thanks to Arundhati and Sundar for being around. Hari Om. Next we have Shri C.K. Guru Prasad from Bengaluru again, who I know for more than 30 years. It feels good when children who grow with the Chinmaya Mission they become influencing personalities in their lives. And one example is Guru Prasad. He's an executive search consultant with Spencer Stuart, focusing on digital and technology leadership, hiring and advisory services. Earlier, he had a designation called principal. I asked him of which college, school, and he waved his hand, dismissing my question, which meant I was a little ignorant. He started with Balvihars in the 1980s in Pune, Chik in the 1990s in Mumbai, and then study groups. He continues to take Chik classes and study groups in Bengaluru now. He speaks of what he learnt through Pujya Gurudev's actions. Listen to him.
ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
Hari Om. I would like to share two anecdotes from Gurudev's life from where I have learned lessons which have stayed with me all my life. The first one, and the lesson, is about being in control of your emotions and not allowing your emotions to control you. I remember this practical demonstration of this particular principle by Gurudev once when I was at the Powai ashram and Gurudev was in the ashram in his kutia, and he would be sitting at his desk, and there would typically be a stream of devotees lining up on the right side of his desk to meet him, prostrate, take his blessings, while he would continue doing his work. In the midst, he would also be meeting these devotees. And from the left side of the desk, the trustees, ashram officials, and other people, mission members, would come to him for his approvals, for some paperwork, for signing some documents. And this would be continuing, and I was sitting and watching this. On that particular day, the ashram manager came to Gurudev with a file. Gurudev looked through the document and Gurudev got livid. He asked a few questions and he got livid. And he literally blew up. And when Gurudev blows up, that was quite an experience, and people would shiver. And he was firing the ashram manager, basically because there were some very critical instructions that he had given to the ashram manager which had not been followed. And what happened after that, in the next moment, was something that left an indelible impression in my mind. As Gurudev turned from the left to the right of his table, there was this old Amma who had come to meet him and take his blessings. In that split second, Gurudev dropped his anger and he spoke to that Amma with so much love and affection. It was amazing to watch. He inquired about her health. He then even asked her about some cataract operation which he remembered that she had gone through. There was absolutely no trace of the anger. Gurudev used to say that use anger like a handkerchief. Keep it in your pocket, remove it when you need to use it, and then put it back after you've finished using it. This was a practical demonstration that I saw. The second lesson I remember is about finding opportunity in every diversity. Adversity. Gurudev had wanted the shivling in the Tamarepakam temple to be made of solid glass, like a Sphatikalinga. This shivling was being made in a glass factory somewhere in Europe, in Paris. When the shivling arrived, people were shocked because some confusion in the specifications, and the manufacturer had made the shivling like a hollow test tube, a thick hollow test tube. People were very upset because the consecration date had been finalized and there was no time to get this remade in time for the consecration. So they were wondering whether this had to be postponed. And they very hesitatingly told Gurudev. Gurudev looked at the shivling, the hollow shivling. He thought for a moment and then he asked the officials and the trustees to get glass beads made of 2 different sizes. And then in the next visit, when Gurudev was at the ashram, and I was fortunate enough to be there during these occasions, he asked the volunteers to bring a bucket and mix these glass beads in that bucket, and then make them fill the hollow part of the shivling with these glass beads, turned it over, and then he gave very specific instructions to all the trustees about how he wanted this shivling to be placed with lights all around the base, so that the lights would go through the beads, and he said they should shine, the light should reflect on the ceiling of the temple. He had visualized this while sitting there in the ashram in Powai. And today that's what you see at Tamarepakam, where the shivling is even more beautiful than what was originally envisioned. such a beautiful example of finding opportunity in adversity. This is another lesson that stayed with me from Gurudev's life and will stay with me all my life.
So thank you, Guru Prasad. I don't think he's in the meeting today, but thanks for sharing your thoughts. Next, we have some music to break the same repetitive talk. Now we'll have some singing. So we have called Shobha Iyer, who is the Shobha of Chinmaya Naada Bindu Gurukula, to sing a song that has been written and composed by my mother again, like yesterday, and written on Pujya Gurudev. He is called the friend of everyone. Hey Suhrada Swami Chinmayananda. Okay, so we have Shobha singing Hey Suhrada. She's going to be live, so you can hear her. You can pin her, Tejaswini.
Okay, so this song was composed specially for Gurudev's 75th birthday. The mention of it will also come in the song. So I'm attempting it. Hey Suhrada, Hey Suhrada, Swami Chinmayananda, इस अर्थ जीवन का अर्थ बताइए, इसे व्यर्थ होने न दीजिए. हे सुहृदा स्वामी चिन्मयानंद, इस अर्थ जीवन का अर्थ बताइए, इसे व्यर्थ होने न दीजिए. हे सुहृदा. माँ की ममता दी है आपने, पिता का प्यार भी दे दिया. माँ की ममता दी है आपने, पिता का प्यार भी दे दिया. ब्रह्म स्वरूप ही आप है गुरुदेव, चरणों में आसरा दीजिए. ब्रह्म स्वरूप ही आप है गुरुदेव, चरणों में आसरा दीजिए. इस अर्थ जीवन का अर्थ बताइए, इसे व्यर्थ होने न दीजिए. हे सुहृदा स्वामी चिन्मयानंद, इस अर्थ जीवन का अर्थ बताइए, इसे व्यर्थ होने न दीजिए. हे सुहृदा. प्रसन्न वदन को नमन, प्रसिद्ध पुरुष को नमन, प्रणव स्वरूप को नमन, प्रणत वत्सल को नमन. प्रसन्न वदन को नमन, प्रसिद्ध पुरुष को नमन, प्रणव स्वरूप को नमन, प्रणत वत्सल को नमन. शतकोटि नमन है गुरुदेव, शतकोटि नमन है गुरुदेव, शतकोटि नमन है गुरुदेव, शतकोटि नमन है गुरुदेव. 7 दशक और 5 बरस के सार्थक जीवन के शुभ अवसर में हार्दिक शुभकामनाओं को आपके चरणों में अर्पण करते हैं हम। हार्दिक शुभकामनाओं को आपके चरणों में अर्पण करते हैं। गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। हे सुहृदा हे सुहृदा सुहृदा सुहृदा। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Jai. Thank you, Shobha. So Shobha, besides doing all the administrative work at Chinmaya Naada Bindu Gurukula, also sings beautifully. And she is also conducting the Stotram chanting classes. Some of you, I think, are already attending. It's thrice a week that she's doing different Stotrams and people are enjoying it. So in case you want to join, you can always connect with us. Thank you, Shobha. Next we have Srimati Padmaja Nair, who is a sister of Shri Suresh Nair, also living in Bengaluru. She says her identity is that of a devotee of Pujya Swami Chinmayanandaji. She also has been through Bal Vihar and later has conducted Bal Vihars in Ranchi, Kolkata and also in Bengaluru, where she presently continues to participate in the mission activities. She talks about an incident which will surely touch your hearts. Let's listen to her. That's Padmajaji and her family.
ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
Hari Om. I am Padmaja Nair from Bangalore. My association with Chinmaya Mission dates back to 1969 when Balavihar was started in Ranchi in Jharkhand, where I had spent my childhood and college days. As a child of 5, I used to attend the Balavihar with my siblings. But it was only in 1977 that I got a chance to meet Gurudev when he came to Ranchi for a Gita Jnana Yajna. Today I shall share an incident which happened in Powai Ashram in the year 1989. After completion of my graduation, I came to Mumbai in April 1989 in search of a job on advice of Pujya Gurudev. In Mumbai, the only Gurudev's devotee whom I knew was Sri Kalidasji and Swarnaji. From June 12th to 18th, 1989, there was a Gurudev's camp which was organized in Powai Ashram. Kalidasji registered my mother and me for the camp. On one of the days during the camp, I had to attend a job interview. I took Gurudev's permission, sought his blessings and went to attend the interview. It was in the morning, the interview was in the morning, and after the interview I reached back the ashram. When I reached, it was a lunch time and Gurudev was having his lunch in the Annakshetra. I stood outside the Annakshetra and saw some Yuva Kendra members singing a bhajan. After the bhajan was over, there was complete silence and Gurudev was sitting with his eyes closed. Kalidasji saw me and he called me inside the Annakshetra and asked me to sing a bhajan. I came in, I sang a bhajan, a small bhajan. After the bhajan was over, Gurudev was still sitting with his eyes closed and Kalidasji asked me to sing one more bhajan. The second Kirtanam that I sang was an Annamacharya Kriti, Bhavayami Gopala Balam. I had learned this in Ranchi, and when my music teacher was teaching me that Kriti, I had a great desire to sing it for Gurudev. After the song was over, he looked at me and called me, and I went close to him. He took a fruit from his plate and held it out. I came forward, I held out my hand, and I wanted to receive the prasadam from Gurudev. But Gurudev made an indication, he nodded his head and asked me to come closer and sit down. I knelt down, opened my mouth as he asked me to, and he put the fruit, a lychee fruit, into my mouth. After that he smiled, he got up and he went to wash his hand. I was very emotional. I got up and I came out of Annakshetra and started crying. My mother asked me that you should be happy, why are you so sad? Why are you so emotional? Then I told Amma about a dream that I had that morning and woke up with. I saw that I was sitting on the floor and Gurudev was feeding me. This was the dream that I saw. This experience of mine with Gurudev I cherish, and this made me realize that our Gurudev is Narayana himself. He is Antaryami. He knows every thought and desire in our mind, in our heart, what is coming up. And I did have a desire to sing for Gurudev. He fulfilled that. This is the greatest blessing that I could ever have in my life. I can only say, Om Antaryamine Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha.
So we have nothing to add to that, Padmaji. That experience is entirely yours, and it has been shared so beautifully. Thank you so much. Very few members of the Chinmaya Mission may not know Shri M. Keshav from Chennai, who has been a long-standing active member and worker of the Chinmaya Mission. He started off as Secretary Chick Madras in 1979, then President Chick in 1987, and Regional Coordinator Chick for the South. After serving as the Mission Joint Secretary and being on the Executive Committee for several years, he completed his stint as Joint Secretary of the Chinmaya Vidyalaya, Annanagar. His last held position given by Guruji was member of the Advisory Board of Chinmaya Institute of Management, Bangalore. He now prefers to be known only as a devotee unto him. Keshavji speaks of how Gurudev taught him or taught them to have unshakable trust in God, taught the family how to have unshakable trust in God. Over to Keshavji. Keshavji also can be remembered as the villain in the Ramayana light and sound show.
Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha.
Hari Om. We've just had Guru Purnima and now we have the Mahasamadhi day of Pujya Gurudev. It's always an honor and a pleasure to speak about the person who is a Parama Guru for the entire world, for anybody who has met him. But for some of us, this was very special that he not only loved us, he not only blessed us, but he also played an active part in every little decision in our life. How lucky are some of us? Let me tell you what happened when I was a very, very young child. I had an older sister who passed away because of a hole in her heart. Because of his love for my father, he said, Unni Nair, take good care of the child, but don't ever let anything come in the way of your trust in God. This is a very simple explanation of the fact that we had to accept the worst in the case of my sister. From there on, we saw His grace in everything we did, in every little way that we lived our lives. He was a part of my youth. I had the honor of staying in Sandipani during my college days, so I had a good idea of monastic life without actually being a part of it. And as they say, the Guru normally tests the student, but people like us have always tested our Guru more and found every time that Pujya Gurudev passed the test with flying colors. I'm sure many of you can understand what I mean. We have done things, everything the way he wanted us to, challenge what he said, and find out the hard way that he was right after all. So he was there when I finished my college. He was there when I was the secretary of the Chinmaya Yuvakendra Madras and had a chance to put up a huge light and sound show called Kamban, in which of course I also acted the role of Ravana. But it was like an MBA. It was in fact better than an MBA degree to be part of a project management like Kamba Ramayana. And from there on I went to get married, to build a house, to have children, and he was a part of everything. Today we realize what a role he has played in every little way in our lives, and how blessed we are that we had Pujya Gurudev guiding us. Of course, Guruji has put it in very beautiful words every time. He, at that level, at his feet, and we at our level, can relate to everything that Guruji writes about Gurudev, which is, as we realize, agyan se bhare, samshay se bhare. We have always lived with doubt, and today we realize more and more that his love and his compassion will always be our greatest strength to be in the Chinmaya Mission, to be better citizens, and to be better people and role models for people around us. How can we ever give back? Like Guruji says, how can we ever give back to Pujya Gurudev? By trying harder. Stop crying, keep trying. That is our best way to live for Pujya Gurudev. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And hopefully Keshav was happy with the pictures that were inserted into the video. Thanks for sharing those lovely pictures of the family. Thank you, Keshav ji. Next we have Dr. Anita Rayanathapan from Delhi. I don't think she is in a meeting. Anita ji had asked me to introduce her only as a seeker and sevika. I felt we would do injustice to our audience if I didn't steal her biodata from reliable sources. And here is some information about her. Anita ji has been associated with Chinmaya Mission for over 30 years and has worked on a variety of mission projects. These include designing and conducting programs for the Yuva Kendra, conceptualizing and coordinating an annual youth festival for Delhi schools over several years with the theme Creation of National Wealth Through Values. It includes writing the narrative for the multimedia experiential journey with the master, both at Chinmaya Center for World Understanding, New Delhi, and at Chinmaya Vibhuti, Kolwan. She has compiled and edited books, written articles, done translation work from Hindi to English, and conducted workshops. Since many years, she leads several study groups. She has a doctorate degree in ancient Indian history, and 2 master's degrees in French literature and history. As a visiting research fellow at the University of Philippines, she worked on comparative religion and also the Indian diaspora. She has published numerous academic and journalistic articles on Indian society, tradition, and culture, authored several books, and worked as a translator, interpreter from French into English. A qualified yoga instructor, she has run a yoga and wellness studio for many years. She was also a member of the Academic Council at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth in the initial years. Here, she explains how Pujya Gurudev impacted her entire being. Let's listen to Anita ji. This is the second last of the presentations. We have one more.
One minute, Amma.
I hope all of you are enjoying. I don't think there's any time to get bored. Thank you.
ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
What mesmerized me about Gurudev when I first met him was the power of his words and the power of his silence. I remember the wee hours of the mornings in Sidbari when we would await his arrival to take us on the guided meditation session. I remember sitting in the dark silence of the hall with my eyes closed, and suddenly his words would flow into my ears and reach the depths of my being. How silently he would enter the hall and begin speaking. I remember the divine silence at the end of those sessions. Those moments were like a state of suspension of the earthly, the mundane, the ordinary. And I felt in those moments that I had a whiff, just a whiff of something that was indescribable, undefinable, but which left a tremendous yearning in its wake. I think it is with Gurudev that I first experienced the state of exaltation. I remember coming home after one of the early lectures that I heard from him, and I felt that I was walking a few inches above the ground. When I came home, the voices of the family members seemed to come from somewhere far away. His words had had such a powerful impact on me, and they had dispelled so many of the notions that I harbored at that point about Hinduism. And I longed for moments of stillness in the tumult of my domestic life, for moments when I would be able to sit back, relive what I had heard, and reflect on it. Observing Pujya Gurudev's life and reflecting on it taught me one thing very early in life, and that is that you always walk alone. His life was here today for a few days, gone tomorrow to another place where he spent a few days, and then onwards. It was touching people's lives, blessing them, inspiring them, and moving onwards without a backward glance. And I realized that that is actually what life was. And I felt how important it was to have strong convictions, because strong convictions alone engender courage. It is convictions that give you the fearlessness to embrace the unknown with faith and trust. I was very touched by how much Gurudev gave of himself to each one of us. I remember the promptness with which he personally replied to the occasional letter that I wrote to him. In those few golden moments when he penned his reply to me, he was fully present to me, as he was during the moments when I read his letters over and over again, trying to engrave his words on the tablet of my heart. I often observed
how some of the things that Gurudev said, without mincing his words, sounded so hurtful to people. But then I also saw the way in which devotees became even more dedicated. And I realized that there was obviously some magical formula behind those scoldings. But in a nutshell, I was always very much in awe of Gurudev, perhaps even a little terrified of him, and so I hugged the shadows and remained on the periphery. But I know that he touched my life very, very deeply, and how deeply was something I did not realize then. But it is he who initiated me into this knowledge. It is he who taught me to listen with the heart and not just with the head. And it is he who prepared me for the next stage, when Pujya Guruji became the guiding light of my life and gave me refuge under his wing. As the years have gone by, I have understood that Gurudev and Guruji are in fact just one. Hari Om.
Oh, it talks about her personality, the way she spoke. Thank you, Anita ji, for this lovely experience of yours. Lastly, we go to Shri Shankar Pillai ji, the founding member and the president at Chinmaya Mission, Chicago. He is a loving disciple of Pujya Gurudev and Pujya Guruji, serving the mission even with his thoughts and continuing in the path shown by Pujya Gurudev in total surrender and devotion since the last 42 years. Here is a very emotional submission by Shankarji about how Gurudev didn't disappoint sincere seekers, sincere workers. So let's listen to him, and after that I come back to you. Hari Om.
ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः।
Hari Om. Beyond all our affluence and advancements in life, our greatest blessing is having Gurudev in our lives. With his loving guidance and blessings, our Chinmaya Mission, Chicago, is now one of the major regional centers of the mission in the US. It was our earnest desire and decision that none other than Swami Chinmayananda will lay the foundation when we build our Badri Center. We bought the property in 1987, and ever since, for almost a year and a half, I have been regularly communicating with Gurudev to have a day available from him to do our Bhumi Puja. Finally, Gurudev gave us the date, August 25 in 1989, and we were so excited. The historic event was totally announced to all our community in Chicago. All on a sudden, just the previous evening, I had an urgent call from the brahmachari who was assigned to our center to have a meeting with him to discuss something very important. So I rushed back to Badri in the evening. Our Ashok and Umavati were there with him, and he told me, to my total disappointment and surprise, that Gurudev will not be coming. Swamiji has been requested by Dr. Karan Singh, the Foreign Minister of Government of India, to have him in England for an international World Conference of Religions, and Gurudev would be the keynote speaker. Our Brahmachari even suggested that we invite Swami Tejamanji, but there was no time. But on top of all that, I became very depressed, distraught. I told him that we are cancelling the Bhumi Puja, and I simply left Badri and went home. As I was walking in, this makes me emotional. As I was walking in, my younger son came and told me that there is a call from England. The lady's name is Laju, and she wanted me to tell you that Gurudev is coming. Right away I knew it was Raju Chandrai, and she has called us as Gurudev instructed her, and I was so choked. I jumped up and down, and it was so exalted by this news, and I informed my friends everything is back on as scheduled. Gurudev had instructed to inform us to continue with the puja, and he will join us during the Bhumi Puja time to complete the foundation ceremony. Just as he had promised, our puja ended around 1 p.m. and just at the moment Gurudev arrived at Badri, I ran up to him, fell at his feet, and he put his hand on my shoulder. I still can see his smile on his face. He told me, I know what you went through, let's go. So he took me to the Havan and invited everybody to join. Gurudev took the brick and along with all of us guided us to the foundation point of Badri Shrine. Our wish was fulfilled by him, and this is my everlasting memory. And what Gurudev actually had done, that from Calgary, Canada, Swamiji had flown direct to London, finished his speech, and from the podium he went to Heathrow Airport and flew right to Chicago, even without staying for Bhiksha in London. This is like a 28 hours of continuous effort by him just to make it happen so that Gurudev would reach us in Chicago for our Bhumi Puja. This is Gurudev, an ocean of love, and this memory stays with us forever. This is our history, and I also want to say that I never miss him. He's constantly in the back of my mind, and he is all that guides me, keeps me going with everything in my life. My pranams to him and in constant memory. Hari Om.
Hari Om. I think Shankarji speaks for a lot of people who have been so close with Gurudev. His words are echoing everybody's sentiments, and he has shown it with his emotion. He almost cried during this talk. And the background was Chinmaya Badri Ashram in Chicago. All right. Now, this morning, how do we conclude this session? Because 2 days we've been talking about Gurudev. So how do we conclude? I was wondering what to do. I had thought of a song, which I may sing if there is time. But this morning, I received a short video on Pujya Gurudev from Swami Swaroopanandaji. And I think this is the best way to close our session today. Before I sing the bhajan, if there is no time for bhajan, I think it's already 9:45, we can drop that. But before that, let me thank all of you once again for being present here both yesterday and today. I thank the CVV team and the for their IT support and their encouragement that we received, for conducting these workshops and programs. Chinmaya Naada Bindu Gurukula team is consisting of Shri Akshay Malhotra and Shobha Iyer, has been completely cooperative and supportive with anything that we needed to do. Finally, Tejaswini, who has been with me in almost every session of One to Him, doing little and big jobs. It would have been difficult to manage without her selfless help. Thanks to all of you. Thanks once again, and God bless. And now we shall watch the last video and then conclude with the prayers. Hari Om.
What if I told you that the greatest Hindu revivalist started out as an atheist? That he almost died for his country? That the pride of India changed the world? What if I told you he wasn't allowed to ask the same question twice? That a 4-person satsang spread to 27 countries? That one simple chart changed the way we view ourselves? What if I told you he showed us the beauty of Sanskritam using the English language? That he never left a letter unanswered? That he spent a lifetime singing the song of his beloved? That an impromptu speech became a pledge said by millions? What if I told you he roared like a lion till the end? But what if I told you this was just the beginning?
This is just the beginning. All right. So I've got some requests. So those who need to go can quickly leave, but I will finish with this song. Again, written and composed by Srimati Sushila Acharya, my mother. And this is about our Gurudev sitting in Siddhabari, resting in Siddhabari, the great king of Siddhabari. Okay. सिद्धबारी क्षेत्र में सिद्धबारी क्षेत्र में विराजमान हो बैठे प्रसिद्ध पुरुष चिन्मयानंद बार बार नमस्कार सिद्धबारी क्षेत्र में नाथ तुम हो दाता तुम हो दान शूर कर्ण तुम हो तात मात सखा तुम हो दीनवत्सल हे प्रभो सिद्धबारी क्षेत्र में चैतन्य भरो सुज्ञान भरो चैतन्य भरो सुज्ञान भरो शक्ति भरो मुझे उद्धारो चैतन्य भरो सुज्ञान भरो शक्ति भरो मुझे उद्धारो आनंद भरो प्रेम भरो आनंद भरो प्रेम भरो मेरे अंतरंग को शुद्ध करो मेरे अंतरंग को शुद्ध करो सिद्धबारी क्षेत्र में विराजमान हो बैठे प्रसिद्ध पुरुष चिन्मयानंद बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार बार बार नमस्कार। बोलिए सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।